Mr. Goff and Mr. Warner are going to have a color of conversation, so please stay. And we're going to open it to questions in a very short moment. Thank you.
All right. So I had a whole list of questions prepared for Colin, but after meeting him and speaking with him briefly, I think I'm going to change course. So the burning question for me is, after seeing this film, after meeting you and feeling your energy, and the fact that you emit such a positive, strong vibe, it reminded me of Asada Shakur. So when I met Miss Shakur, after reading her book and reading all of the history of what she went through, and I saw her, I asked her, how do you survive? How are you not angry? She said, because I can't. She said, the reason I survived is because of love. She said, I continue to love. How did you survive?
Greetings to everyone in the audience. I appreciate your coming out to see this movie. A lot of you may think that it's a good movie, but living it was hell, right? Going through that experience, I didn't know how much strength I had, how much power I wielded within myself. It's only when I was arrested that I realized that I was in a fight. Before that, I was just like a leaf floating in the air, right? I say that because some of us need to go to prison because we are walking around here with our eyes closed. And only the introduction of prison will make us slow down and check ourselves, because that is what rehabilitation is about. You don't have to go to prison to become rehabilitated. You could rehabilitate yourself in your bedroom, in the bathroom, anywhere. People claim that I am strong, but I will say to that we are all strong. We just have to tap into that energy. A lot of us shy away from the teachings of our parents, but when we are in a jam, their teachings come back to us, and that's what happened to me. The teachings of my grandmother and father sustained me in a situation where I was overwhelmed, right? If somebody keeps telling you that you are this for years, eventually you might come to believe it. I am here to tell you that nobody is supposed to tell you what you are. You define yourself, right? And I am a product of the prison system. Yet I try out here not to project that. You will only know that if I tell you, right? So it's a battle, because it's two worlds, the prison world and so-called free world here, right? And we have to adjust our thinking and our behavior to go through both worlds. There's so much I want to say, but the most thing what I would like to say is that we have to love each other. Because if you see another black face and you are angry or you want to do some type of physical violence to that person, that only says that you do not love yourself, right? And we have to love ourselves to love somebody else. So Don't give up the fight. Don't give up the fight, right? It's only through fighting change is going to come. If we sit down in our house every day, nothing is going to change. Change will only happen when we go to work. And that is my philosophy. Work. Without work, there's nothing. You can't accomplish nothing. Nothing's going to change. If this stays here for 2 years, it's going to stay here. It's not going to move unless we pick it up and move it. Right? So movement is our philosophy because we have a lot of time not to move. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When are we not moving?
What would you?
When we 6 feet under. That's when we're not moving. So while we are above ground, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year is movement. Right? So get together, right? Because as a people, together, there's no stopping us. Right? Too much of talking has been done already. It's time to work. Work. Work.
So let's talk about the work that needs to be done, because you said something that brought up another memory in terms of needing to love each other. So a mentor of mine, Walter Fluker, Dr. Fluker, he's a Howard Thurman scholar. And so he always talked about the beloved community. And so he would challenge us to imagine what our work would be in the future to create or sustain this beloved community. And I'll recall 20 years ago, and the archival footage here triggered some of that memory, seeing it go from Reagan to Bush to Clinton, who all were responsible for mass incarceration of Black and brown bodies. And so he said, the challenge of your generation is going to be how are you going to help your brothers and sisters who were incarcerated during this time, during your youth, when they're released back into the world? So can you talk to us about that work, either the work that you've done to adjust to this world, this ever-changing world, and the work that we all need to do to help others as they come out sort of adjust?
Well, coming out of prison after 21 years, I became a baby again. To me, this is my second life. I am here today because of my wife, Colin Warner. Stand up, right? And also my daughter next to her, Nihanda Warner. This, this is the product of my being released. When I say work, we have to start within the family because everything starts from there. I went to Baltimore last week and I saw a 13-year-old youth man on the streets of Baltimore at 12:30 at night with no adult supervision, nowhere around. So I asked him, what the hell are you doing out here this late at night without no adult around him? He don't have anyone. So these are the kids who we need to check step 2. Because imagine if he is lucky enough to last 10 more years on the street, and that's a big if, what type of individual you think he will become? It's a monster. Because all he knows, all what he takes is from the streets. Right? Tell me, listen, I don't see nobody to emulate. So we cannot forget our kids. I'm like this. All children, I am their father. Because if I see a child in trouble, I'm not going to turn my back. He becomes my son, or you know what I'm saying? She's my son. I'm the father. Because if your kids are out there and they are in trouble, you will want the next person to step up for them. Right? So we have to get out of selfies. Self. We are a community, right? And it takes a community to raise, to grow together. We cannot grow separate. And I think this is our big problem in addressing just basic fundamentals. Start with ourselves. We are scared of ourselves. For what? For what? Most of what you hear about what the black man is doing is propaganda, because they have young black men who are working, and we have to give them a little push. Just like the 13-year-old kid, we can't forget the 13-year-old kid. He's one of us, and we try not to let him to go over the edge, because sometimes when you go over, it's hard to come back, right? I didn't have to come back because I wasn't a criminal. I did not live as a criminal in prison, right? My job in prison was to free my name, to clear my name. And that is why I did 21 years, because I would not admit to killing another human being when I didn't do it. So in life, we have to take stand, right?
Just because I'm going to have to touch on the film just briefly, and then I want to come back to sort of this sort of strand of the conversation. So I remembered the 2005 NPR This American Life episode that featured you and Carl. I'm a NPR junkie. I'm an addict. I got a problem. But so before I watched the film for the first time, I went back and listened to that episode again. And what was striking in seeing the film is how close it was to that interview. So from your perspective, how do you feel the director and the filmmakers of this project did? How close did they come to telling your story authentically?
The story is 99.9% true. This was the experience where you didn't have to add to sell a movie. My objective in this movie is to reach out to people, because I look at it as fighting a system and overcoming the system. Now, some may think 21 years, that's a lifetime. But in the eyes of God, 21 years is a blink of an eye. So we have to take things in perspective, right? Not being bitter is what have me here. Not to say I wasn't bitter. I didn't accept it, right? But come to realize now that the energy that I was using in prison, I had to channel it somewhere else. And along with my friend Carl King, who is not here today, but he is one of the key instruments in my getting released.
So, because we're going to have to wrap up in a second, tell me what you said about Carl in terms of what family is, like how Carl is your family, how he's your brother.
Well, as I told you earlier, family don't have to come from blood. Right now, I have family who I met in prison, because not all prisoners are bad, right? Alcohol is a major influence. I have met dudes who work in 95 and go take a chill in a bar and the next thing they know, they're in prison, right? And you see these guys in prison and say, what the hell are you doing here, right? So it does not take a lot in this society to go to prison. Prison to some is a death sentence. I was sentenced to death because in New York State, if you have a life sentence, you are technically dead, right? So living through all that, not having a single person in this world to communicate with, being lonely and alone. Right now I could be lonely, I could be alone. I've lived it. But having nobody at your side is really pressing, right? And I have family, right? So what I tell you all, don't give up on family. They are the basic foundations for everything. We all make mistakes, but we all could correct that, given that opportunity. But if we are left by ourselves, then anything is possible. So my message to everybody, and to myself included, is to continue to love each other, because other than love is hate, right? And practice what you preach. I tell my daughter, if your words are not in conjunction with your behavior, then you're full of it. The people who you're talking to know that you are full of it, right? So keep everything in one. If you are true, if you are a true warrior, we all are warriors. But you could be a turncoat, or you can live up to the people, right? So what are we? What are you? Decide that and move on.
That's right. I think we're going to open up.
Before we open it up to questions, I just want everyone to, to show support for the film, and then just kind of tweet the hashtag and that's the Twitter handle as we open it up for the Q&A portion of it.
Yeah, support this film, because Colin said he wants this film to change lives. And so the only way that can happen is if we allow people to see this movie. So tell your friends when it comes out in theaters, buy a ticket for somebody, because you've already seen it. Support. Any questions? We've got 2 microphones up here in the front. Yes, ma'am.
So first of all, the movie was incredible. I'm a principal at a school in Boston, and I also had heard This American Life, and it was so amazing that I teach this case every year. So since 2005 to this year, every student who has graduated from my school has heard your story in depth, and we look at it in our justice unit as what is your duty as a citizen, and how the justice system can work and how the justice system doesn't work. So it's just incredible to be able to see the movie and to see you. I feel like I know you because I heard your voice so many times from teaching it.
Thank you.
But my question is, do you talk to students or go to schools? Because I think it would be amazing for students to be able to hear your story, see the movie, but also to see you now and how you're sort of moving forward in that.
Well, I take the opportunity to talk to kids anywhere I can, especially on the streets. And I find that they will listen to me because I am coming from the true heart, right? Our case needs something. What they have now is not efficient, self-sufficient to sustain them, right? If I can inject energy, a different thought pattern, then I can accept 21 years in prison, because I'm helping another human being. And in turn, that human being will help another human being, right? So everything is taken in context. Yeah, man. It's 2 decades it took for me. They just snatched from me, right? And I had no saying in that, right? I had no money. I ain't had people to defend me properly, right? So I was placed in a situation where I'm like the sacrificial lamb, right? And just living the experience that I can't even look at the movie anymore. Because from a look at the movie, it's just a negative aura comes over me, you know what I mean? So I appreciate you all looking at it. I would appreciate more if you could spread the word. Because we all know people who need help. Spread the word. Let them come, let them see the movie. There might be a situation. You don't have to be in prison to get something from this movie. You don't have to. Right? You're going through situations now, and hopefully this movie will give you an incentive to keep on.
Do we have another question?
Brother Colin,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you so much for continuing to breathe and to live. I thought I was going to stop breathing while watching the film.
Please don't.
So thank you so much for living through this.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
My question is, did the state make any kind of retribution to you or restitution to you and your family and your friends who supported you through such an ordeal?
Yes, the state did big restitution, but my question to you now is, how much restitution is worth 21 years?
All right. Do we have any other questions?
First of all, I just want to say I love you. I mean, this is the second time I've seen the film. I brought some more people to see it. I think that the story is just amazing. I wish it were not a true story. But it moves me in such a way that I feel your spirit. I feel the whole family spirit. My question though is, how, at the beginning of the film, you're talking about Marcus Garvey. What do you think about, how you think what Marcus Garvey was teaching, how we can use that today?
I did some studying while I was in prison of Marcus Garvey, and the one statement that stuck with me and I try to live to this day is when he said, if you can't find work, make work. We all have that ability within us. It's just that sometimes, a lot of us, that ability comes out too late. So we always scratching to reach the level of the person who that ability came out early. But listen, fight, search. You have Google, right? Do investigation, do whatever it takes for you to rise up. Sometimes it's not, we can't do it by ourselves. So one of our mission is to find people of like minds. There are people out there. So you can build. Because it's all about building. Because nothing is forever. We are not forever. So while we are here, make it worthwhile.
I think we have another question.
My soul is happy for you.
Thank you.
A man will gather wealth to find what is truly wealthy and worthwhile in this life. And you found that before you left prison because you have a beautiful wife and daughter. I had 4 brothers in my life. I want to ask you how many brothers that you have.
I have 3 brothers.
I am glad you had a prince of a brother who believed in you even when you couldn't believe in yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking my question. This movie, this life is overwhelming. Detroit that shocked me. I think I heard it incorrectly. Only $7 point some odd million was made on a movie that I think everyone should see, and this is a movie I think everyone should see as well. So my question is, how can we get our people and other people to see this movie if they don't even go and see Detroit? Two very poignant, back-to-back, I mean, just knockouts. That's my question.
Now, hopefully I don't get in trouble for this. I think as audiences, I'm a lover of film. I'm a filmmaker, but I'm a fan. I love cinema. So we have to start being discerning audiences, because everything that's put in front of us, just because there's a black body, doesn't mean it was meant for us. So Colin said this film is 99.9% true. I've got some historians, if you'd like me to give you their numbers or emails, and we can talk about how factual those representations of our bodies were in that film, Detroit. But aside from that, how can we get people to see these movies and support?
Listen, word of mouth, texting, Instagram, whatever. Listen, man, we have the power. If we want something to happen, it's going to happen. But it's not going to happen if you keep sitting down. Spread the word. If you believe in the movie, if the movie touch you, let it touch others. Because this is my reason for this movie. I don't want no money. Yeah, if it comes, it's good. Right? But my main objective is to reach as much people as possible, especially the youth. We have about 100 people who have kids here. We have about 100 kids here. Tell them. Let them tell their friends.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Hollistein Graham Days, and this is not a question, but I just want to thank you for coming and sharing your story and being just intellectually honest with what the issues are and what's going on in this world, because we need more of that.
Thank you.
That's it. Oh, we've got one more.
I just want to thank you for sharing this movie. I'm from West Wisconsin. I'm going to be very honest with you. Where I live at, they might not even bring this movie. Because they do that. They don't share movies like that where I live. Me and my wife were fighting, trying to get them to do that. And it's a shame that they don't do that. We have politicians that look like me that don't say a word about that. And I've been fighting for justice for a long time. I've been on TV fighting Paul Ryan for years. And the bottom line is this. You made a point, sir. If we don't fight for our own, who won't fight for us?
And in terms of screenings, you can take the Haley Jarima method. There's people, you can contact the producers of this film, you can contact the representative, Jackie, she's here.
Because I wanted to get where I live at.
And
Check my brother. I'm going to promote this. I like this movie because it shows you to keep fighting no matter what situation that you're in. You got to keep fighting. So I like to get that information.
absolutely.
Before I leave.
We've got to organize community screenings, because if we leave it up to the studios and the theaters to get the movies to us that we want to see, we may not ever see them. So like you said, we can organize community screenings, and we can make sure that people where you are can see the film.
Right. Listen to me, right? This movie was made by one individual after Warner Brothers and DreamWorks refused to do anything about it. Right? So listen, if you stick in, find the next way. There's always a next option. Because what you have to give is more important than they're trying to block you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for sharing your life and your story. I think I have a comment and then I have a question. The Colin is for all of us in this room. It's obvious from the film how important our vote is. We elected these individuals and they stand there and they say things like, it is my commitment to increase prisons. It is my, they use all these euphemistic words about points of light or whatever. We have the power to put people in office that serve us. And it's, we're asleep. We got to get woke. I don't know what it's going to take for us to wake up and understand the power of us as people of color in changing any and every election. The other thing that I wanted to ask, was there any action taken against those officers that framed you?
Well, this is an issue that we personally have to address because these public officials are immune from prosecution after it's revealed they're doing dirty work. So that is one stuff have to be changed, one area have to be changed. A lot of things have to be changed in the criminal justice system, right? But most importantly is the defenders of the criminal justice system, right? They have to be in accordance to whatever laws is done, right? But we are in America. A young black man told me yesterday, like, our skin color is not an issue when we go before the courts. I don't know where you're living at, right? But you see, some of us live that privileged life, right? We grew up in a certain area amongst a certain people, and we don't challenge what is being put in here. So, if you put up a sheet in front of that individual, you will know what type of person he is. Right? So, listen, there's so much to do, but we are a nation. And I tell brothers, listen, whatever you're doing, do your best, because in the end, we all going to come full circle.
Okay, we have one last question.
Hi, I just wanted to thank you again for sharing your story. I think it's very pertinent, and I think it's also very brave that you would show such a huge audience this vulnerability and this experience that must have shaped you to your core. So thank you again for that. And my question is, being in prison for 21 years must have been a very shocking and especially changing experience for you. So I was wondering, within the criminal punishment system and the rehabilitation system, what do you think are the most prevalent changes that need to be made so that criminals who are in prison don't come out more inclined to commit crimes?
There needs to be better programs. I don't know if you all heard about a black man in prison they call the Black Wall Street. His name is Curtis Carroll. And he was a predator in our community. At 17 years old, he got 54 years. But I am telling you, as somebody who was in jail innocently, he needed to go to prison. Some of us need to go to prison because going to prison opens our eyes, right? He said, listen, you cannot find a young black man or woman out here who will say, listen, I'm going to dedicate 4 or 5 years to a program. Any program. You go to prison now, you don't have no choice. You're sitting still, all over the place, because when you're running, you're not thinking, you're just reacting. If prisoners who are doing 5, 10 year sentences comes out now with a program an effective program to challenge anybody in the economic field, where you can stand on the 2 feet eye to eye and conduct business. Listen, man, they're going to send us all back to Africa. Because that is the threat. Money. It ain't about guns. They got the biggest guns. They trained. But as black people, listen, we may be able to survive, but it will take too long and too much our lives. Money. This year, we have to utilize. This is our power. Because whatever comes in here, ain't nobody can take it out. This is yours. Right? So get the right info. Because there's a lot of information out there. It's not for us. So we got to circulate the waters. Just like I did in prison. I got to circulate. There's a new environment. Circulate, find out who I want to deal with, who I want to stay away from. Get on your program. It ain't all about the man, man. It's about you.
That's right.
The hell with the man.
Thank you, Colin, and thank your family for being here tonight. Thank you, Stephanie and Floyd, for this wonderful, wonderful speech.
Please give Mr. Warner and Mr. Goff a round of applause, please.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming this evening. We'll see you tomorrow. Remember, for Marshall, please come on time. 6:30 if you can. Please come on time. Have a good evening, everybody.